who I spent a lot of time with, and I can probably attribute a lot of my skill development to him. But always played lots of sports, soccer being my biggest passion. I'm a huge soccer fan, but would lend my hand to any sport really and give everything a go. It's just my release from the world, and that led me into wanting to teach physical education and sport. I was a soccer coach first and foremost before all of that, and worked out in the United States of America, in Pennsylvania and New Jersey, New York, with UK Elite Soccer, and decided I wanted to become a physical education teacher and a teacher of primary age children. So I moved into that, did it for a number of years, decided to focus more on the physical education, which is where my passion transpired into what is my own podcast now, the PE Umbrella. And that's sort of taken me to where we are today, which is as a teacher of physical education, a huge advocate and a fan of the benefits physical education can bring to the lives of all individuals. But then in turn, I think that can have a domino effect on people around them and make everybody in that community more positive and happier and healthier.
That's beautiful, Ryan. So we'll get back to PE in just a minute. Do you still do any soccer coaching?
I don't know, not for anybody or even for myself. And I think there's a small part of me somewhere inside that does miss it, because I was in my element. And if we'd have stayed in the States and not come back here with my wife to get my teaching certification, I would 100%, that would have been my job, my career. I would have coached soccer in the States, hands down. I loved it. I was always looking for new innovative ways to approach it and to develop players over there. And whenever I watch matches, unless it's Leeds United, I watch as a fan. But if I watch any other match, I have my coach's lens on, and I try and see the bigger picture, and I'm still coaching in my head. So it's a part of me that will never go away. Never say never.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I can see though that innovation you've turned in a different direction, because you've started the PE Umbrella, and this is kids. This has turned Ryan into somebody that is known the world over. There are people in many countries that listen to his podcast and that look to him and his website and his the story of the PE Umbrella as sort of a leading light in the field of PE. So I want to ask you about the PE Umbrella, Ryan. What made you think of this? What and how has it gone, and what are your plans?
Oh, goodness me. So it's an interesting one. It started not so much as a concept of what the PE Umbrella was. That was just the name for my podcast straight away. So back in June 2015, 5 years ago, I was a big listener, a fan of listening to podcasts. Not necessarily PE or even sport related, just a bit of everything. And I had the idea and thought, wouldn't it be cool if I could make my own podcast that interviews people around the world about physical education? So we can share ideas, we can share resources, tips, reflections, and just be honest about the subject that I love and I know many others loved as well. So the PE Umbrella came as the name for this podcast because initially I thought of PE encompassing many areas. Physical education encompasses more than just running around and fitness. So an umbrella term is often used to describe many things underneath it. So I thought the PE umbrella works nicely. My wife and myself came up with that. So that was how it started. And then the podcast grew. I built a little website along the side of that, started putting resources on there too. And then there was an interview with another fellow American called Bob Knight. And he actually asked me on my own podcast what the PE Umbrella stands for, where it came from. And upon discussing with him, he sort of formed the idea, which I then later started to play around with, that the PE Umbrella, as a real life umbrella, protects you from the rain. And I know you can have some downpours down there in Florida as well. And you use an umbrella to protect you from the rain itself. A PE umbrella is a metaphorical or sort of imaginary umbrella that you build up and carry with you through life. And I've always had this opinion of physical education as being more than just the physical. It's also the thinking skills that you learn, the cognitive, we call that, the social skills that you learn, which you can take in any aspect of life, and also the emotional skills that you learn, how to manage your emotions of extreme sadness, anxiety, happiness, and so forth. So those four areas I color coded them to blue, red, green, and purple, and that was my PE umbrella. So my thought is this imaginary umbrella we can all develop, we can all work on, we can all build on those skills in different ways, and we all have our PE umbrellas that we carry with us through life. So no matter what obstacle is in your way in life, whether it be a physical obstacle, a challenge with communicating with peers, friends, or disagreements, or successes and failures that you will all undoubtedly come across, you can draw upon your knowledge and experience, your own PE umbrella, to help you navigate that situation. So in a way, as a real umbrella protects you from the rain, your PE umbrella is that tool belt, that resource that protects you and helps you get through the trials and tribulations of the real world itself. And it's just gone from strength to strength to there to where we are now, which is 157 episodes later.
That's so interesting, Ryan. And so you're known, or you're listened to in a lot of different places. I know that you might not even be aware of all of the different places where you listen to, but of those people that you're aware of, where do you know that you have followers? What are some of the countries where you know you have followers?
Okay, so, well, I'm from England, part of the United Kingdom, so majority of the home nations here, encompassing England, Ireland, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, the United States of America and Canada, there's a lot of listenership, Australia and New Zealand, and there are a lot of international teachers in places like China, Saudi Arabia, some of the African nations, and also some European countries as well, France, Italy. So yeah, it's the listenership is larger in countries like the US and the UK and Australia, but there is listenership almost all over the place, and it blows my mind to even think of that there's somebody somewhere in the world listening to little old me recording this show out of my bedroom.
That's so interesting, and we love you. We love listening to you. Of course, here in Tampa, I love listening to you, and our kids have gotten used to you. Our kids are familiar with the PE Umbrella theme music. That is something this music is something that they're used to. This is something that they've heard before. Well, let's see. Oh, I guess I thought.
The PE Umbrella, episode 157.
The kids like that music, Ryan.
As do I.
That's great stuff. That's your signature. And by the way, episode 157 was a really good interview with Cliff Farouk. But so, what are your plans for the PE Umbrella? Where are you going with this thing?
Well, oh goodness me. You know what? I wish I knew for definite. It's probably good to have plans for things, but at the minute, kind of flying by the seat of my pants a little bit. I'll be honest with you. I want to keep growing the awareness of the brand. The podcast has the intentions. It's not going to stop. There'll be at least weekly episodes. I'd love to do the podcast full time as a job. That's not, quite frankly, not feasible. But for me, it's the PE Umbrella at the minute, and I hope it continues to do so, has opened up doorways whereby I can present at conferences and run training days for teachers and work with more students and have my voice heard more, to spread the message about the importance that a quality physical education can bring. So in terms of where it's heading, I'm hoping it continues to open more doors up for me to spread that message and be something that teachers think of when they're asked about physical education ideas or content or go-tos. I'd like to think one day a lot of teachers would say, here's an idea, check out the PE Umbrella, check out the podcast, have a listen to what Ryan has to say. Because even if there's one golden nugget of information in an episode that helps somebody, for me, that's job done. So that's my sort of grand plan. Other than that, it's hard for me to say. I'm open to all avenues, and I'm just enjoying the ride of seeing where it's going to lead at the minute.
It seems wise not to try to make too many plans. I mean, after all, when you had that initial thought in 2015, you didn't know where it was going to lead. You just kind of followed your instinct, didn't you?
Yeah, exactly. I had no idea. I was optimistic, and I think you've got to believe in yourself if you're going to do something. And I did really believe in this idea, but I would have never in a million years envisaged it going how it has and being sat here where I am now. Of course, I'm always wanting to do more and wanting to better myself, but I'm really proud of what I've achieved. And I remember just recently looking in this past sort of week or so, since the episode 157 you mentioned, there's probably been about 1,300 downloads of just the podcast in about 5 days. I remember when I first launched the podcast, I was looking at the downloads in the first week or so, and when I saw that there were two in one day, I was delighted. So sometimes now to be regularly getting well over 200 per day is mind-blowing, and I'm really proud, but I appreciate everybody who gives up any of their free time, whether they're at the gym, at home, whether they're in the garden, in their yard, or whatever they're doing, just to put their headphones on and listen to me speak with the amazing guests I have.
Yes, well, you've been at Cypress Woods before, although you haven't met the kids directly yet, and you know the Eagle Man. The Eagle Man and I directly reach 800 kids, and if you do a little back-of-the-envelope math, I'm sure that not all the teachers that you interact with maybe reach that many. Some might reach more, but there's a lot of impact that you're having, Ryan. So congratulations on that. But I want to ask you if you could take yourself back to your childhood days. When you were in school, ages, say, 8, 9, 10, 11, what do you remember about PE?
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't remember PE being all that enjoyable. And what I mean by that is, for the kids around me, I attribute my love of PE and being active. I don't think it's got anything at all to do with my PE experience in school, which is why I think a lot of people are put off of PE, adults, because of their experience. I think I was just raised, my environment at home, and again, having that older brother, I was always very active and doing and learning and being physical and outdoors. You know, technology wasn't as prevalent as it is now, with the screen time that a lot of people, children and adults, have. And because I became very competent at my own functional body movements and quite skilled at things, whatever we did in PE, and off the top of my head, it was very almost like throwing a ball out, playing games. There wasn't much skill-based. I was always pretty good at it. So therefore, it was something I enjoyed. So I don't attribute PE to my success in any way developing my skill set, but I think I attribute my enjoyment of PE down to my upbringing, home environment. So PE was it was throw a ball out, play some games or matches of some end zone type games, whether it be netball, mat ball, striking, rounders, which is a bit like softball and baseball type activities. Nothing like how I teach PE now. I never experienced a PE lesson in school, primary or high school, anything like how I would teach PE now to the kids I work with.
I find that to be the same with me. I do remember as a child thinking, if I were in charge, I would be doing this or I would not be doing that. I do remember having those thoughts when I was young. Maybe your experience or lack thereof, combined with your love of being out there, maybe that's what's led you to this place that you're at now. Who knows? I wanted to ask you though, Ryan, you're familiar with our kids at Cypress because I've sent you some of the things they've done on video. What is your impression of our kids with the way they do their musical warm-up?
The impression I get, first of all, is of one of a really positive, enthusiastic atmosphere for physical education. You can almost feel, even through watching on a video, the enthusiasm and passion they have for movement and the enjoyment. And I think the way that you use the music and the routines as a means into that, I think has created a wonderful culture at the school. And, you know, I'm only very new to this, and even more recently I've seen firsthand the impact that music can have playing in the background of a PE lesson or being used as the driver, as the tool for the focus of the learning. And when I first saw some of the videos you sent, you know, for me it was like mind blown. I just thought this is incredible. The way that the community is rallying around, the way that the children are just taking to the task and smiling and enjoying themselves. And I think you recently probably only saw that more so for yourself when you were telling me that you had a month without the music. Is that right? And
Yes.
then you really noticed that actually this does have a bigger impact than maybe I first thought, and it took taking the music away for you to understand how cool it really is.
Yes, no music February. That was a big eye opener for the kids and for us, and it was great. It was great to really live without it for a while. Sometimes you don't realize what you have until you don't have it. I wanted to ask you, Ryan. One of the things I often tell the kids is, of course, Cypress Woods is for most of them the only school they've ever been to, and kids only know their own experience. And so for them, maybe everybody does what they do. They don't necessarily know. And one of the things I tried to get across to them is to please understand that what you're doing is unique. There's not too many people out there, or not too many kids out there, that are having PE this way. You have a worldwide footprint. Could you speak to that?
Yes. So that's speaking directly to the Cypress Woods children now. There are very, very few schools and children who will experience the way you experience PE out there. And certainly here in the UK, the use of music is very novel. I will go to schools now and work with children, and even to play music in a lesson alongside their learning, I will have teachers looking at me almost confused, as if to say, oh, I never thought of doing that. And children, the way they almost look at you as if to say, is this PE? What are you doing putting music on? And don't get me wrong, they love it, but it's seen as a novel idea here and many places in the world, and something which is just not experienced as a way PE is traditionally taught. So as I said before, the way I teach PE now is very different to when I experienced PE in school. I don't remember there ever being even a thought or a whisper of music when I was in school, and that is still the case many places in the world, other than a few trailblazing teachers like Mr. Hart here and others that I've come across online and through the podcast who are leading the way with innovating the subject.
That's exciting. Now, most of our kids have seen your version of Whatever It Takes, because I showed them your version, taken in your backyard, I assume, in Harrogate. And first of all, one of the big takeaways for them is he's a lot better dancer than you, Coach. But they were, Ryan. You know how sometimes when you talk to the kids or show them something, and you look at the look in their eye and you look for what kind of a reaction they're having to something. And I'll never forget watching the kids watch you do that. And I had seen you on video myself already, so I didn't need to look at that. I watched them, and this sort of, we talk about aha moments, this sort of awareness coming into their mind. Oh my gosh, he's doing what we do. That is so cool. I'm just going to tell you, you had an impact on my kids. Tell us about the impact it had on the kids that you worked with.
Yeah, that is so awesome to hear. And I'm actually better at that dance now than I was when I recorded it. Let me just put that one out there. I might need to do a version 2. I've since honed my dance skills, and I've improved a little bit upon that. But it was a really enjoyable experience for me to learn, ultimately. And I did it as a lesson starter or a warm-up with the kids I was teaching. So these are year 6s. These kids were 10/11 years old. And I did a couple of little simple copy me activities. And I wanted to learn something a bit more in-depth, a bit trickier, which the version I did was, albeit still a lot of fun. And the song itself is amazing, which certainly helps. So we did it as a warm-up, but the children I worked with bought into it so much. And just like the videos of Cypress Woods elementary children, the smiles on their faces and the energy and enjoyment, they didn't want to stop the warm-up and lesson starter. They wanted to learn more. I had questions being thrown at me of what's the name of this song? Can we come back at lunchtime tomorrow, Mr. Ellis, and can we learn some more of it? How do you do this bit? How do you do that bit? And And I was walking around school at recess playtime and at the after school clubs, and I saw some of these year sixes speaking to younger children, speaking to their peers, and then doing it themselves without my help and input. They'd remembered part of it, they were teaching themselves, they were trying to remember, and they were learning it. I had kids coming up to me telling me they'd practiced it at home the night before, they'd shown their mum and their dad. And it transpired for sport relief just before the whole COVID-19 epidemic lockdown. There was a sport assembly, and a select chosen group of the year sixes performed it in front of the whole school and the parents who came to watch as well. So this small seed of an activity, which I just thought would be fun as a warm-up, it was probably the best buy-in and the happiest and most enjoyment I've seen on the faces of students I've worked with for at least 2 or 3 years in any setting anywhere. It was a revelation for me, and I'll never forget it.
That's great. Wow, that's great to hear, Ryan. Ryan, we've got some. I'll send you. I don't know if I've sent you the videos that I've made for the kids during this break, but if I haven't, I'll send them to you because we're trying to keep it alive here. The musical exercises while we're on this COVID break, and part of what else we've created for the kids is things like this interview that we're doing right now. Anyway, I'm going to ask you now, Ryan, to change gears now and ask you, what do you think PE should be about in this day and going forward?
Okay, well, first of all, PE should not be confused with, or nor should it ever be, sport, and it should never be about being the fastest, the strongest, the quickest. It shouldn't be about any of that. PE for me, particularly at your level, elementary level, children who may be listening at this age, should be about finding your enjoyment of physical activity and how your body works and moves, and developing a skill set so that no matter where life leads you, you will find something, a physical activity that you can enjoy, be competent at and excel at, and you'll want to remain active for the rest of your life. Because if we are competent at something and we feel secure and confident, we're more likely to want to do it. And that's the skill set that physical education, or for me it's the PE umbrella, is that it builds. So that's what PE is all about for me. It's building that PE umbrella, all those skill sets, so children are set for life. So we don't have adults who are scared, nervous and feel insecure to be physically active because they don't know how to do something, or they're fearing failure, or in fear of embarrassing themselves because they aren't able to simply have the hand-eye coordination to catch or to move. And that's the society that I'm seeing, and that's a society that I don't want to see in 20 years' time. So for me, it's just getting all of those fundamentals in place so people can flourish in their life.
Well, you're certainly having an impact on that goal of making PE be about that, Ryan, which leads me to my last question. You have some future teachers that are watching this interview. What would you say to future teachers? Sometimes in PE class, I'll address the kids by starting to say, future teachers of America, blah, 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 whatever I'm going to say next. What would you say to future teachers?
Oh, goodness me. I would say stay true to yourself, whatever it is that you are doing, and whatever it is you teach, whether it's PE or something else. If you are going to be a future teacher, stay true to what you truly believe in and impart that knowledge, and the world will be a better place for it. Everyone deserves to do and teach something that they enjoy and are passionate about. And I would say the same for you. You know, the world's moving in an incredible pace in directions that many of us might not be able to foresee, and you've got the opportunity as a future teacher to help shape that and change that footprint for future generations, and do so for the better if it's something that you really care about and are passionate about. So that it's as simple as that, really. It's such an in-depth question. I could go off on many tangents, but for me it's just to stay true to yourself and leave your own mark on the future, and a legacy behind that's positive and one that you believe in.
That's great. Well, Ryan, hopefully you get a chance to meet these kids by Skype, because we were planning that Skype lesson until we got interrupted, and so that's in our plans for next year, and until we meet again, let's leave it there, and have a good day, and thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure, and I look forward to speaking to you and seeing you again soon.
Have a good day, Ryan. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Jim.